Most people come to breathwork looking for something specific. A breakthrough, an emotional release, an answer. What they almost always get first is an undisturbable calm. They didn't know that they were going to feel calm. They didn't know that was even possible for them. And that's the story we're telling today. How you breathe is how you live. And right now, most of us are breathing like we're being chased. So let's talk about stress or being stuck in fight or flight. If someone is chronically stuck in fight or flight, their sympathetic nervous system activation, they're going to have feelings of persistent worry, anticipating problems, a short temper. They can be easily frustrated, constant scanning for problems. They might have difficulty relaxing. Everything feels urgent. Small tasks feel enormous. They avoid things. They overplan. They have a need for certainty before beginning anything. They have constant mental chatter. They have difficulty turning off their mind, that the monkey mind keeps going. They replay conversations. They rehash mistakes. They imagine the worst case scenario. They have difficulty concentrating, and because of that, they have mental fatigue. Everything is either success or failure, complete black or white. They assume the worst. It is perfection or it is worthless. It is safe or it is dangerous. They have an inability to sit still. They feel guilty when they're resting. They're micromanaging, difficulty delegating, fear of mistakes, excessive standards. They never feel done. Because of this, they procrastinate. Excessive entertainment or social media. They feel attacked easily. They're not very curious. They pull away from others. They feel misunderstood. They have a deep fear of conflict. They have difficulty setting boundaries, and they're trying to manage other people's emotions despite their chronic dissatisfaction and a belief that happiness comes after achieving the next goal. Constant urgency, guilt when resting, replaying conversations, over-planning, difficulty relaxing, that their productivity equals their self-worth. They have an inability to celebrate wins, and they're waiting until the next thing. They often say things like, I'll relax when? I just need to get through this week. I feel like that's the anthem for most of us who are adulting is I just need to get through this week. And we say that every week. And that old chestnut, things will calm down after this project. But the finish line just keeps moving. So a simple self-assessment to understand if you may be living in fight or flight. You struggle to sit quietly for 10 minutes. You feel guilty resting. Your mind immediately jumps to future problems. Your shoulders are unusually tense. You check your phone compulsively. You rarely feel fully satisfied. You don't remember the last day you felt deeply relaxed, and you feel more comfortable doing than being. Past me feels deeply attacked.
Yeah.
If you listened to all of that and said, I can't relate, well, no need to listen to the rest of this podcast. You can turn it off and move on in your podcast listening. If some of these did seem familiar, listen on. We love to complain about any and all of these symptoms, and we would like to be relieved of them, but they are a survival system. The survive response, i.e. stress, was designed to use more of what we have available than what you have available. It is a biological debt plan to run faster or fight harder right now so you can survive and pay that debt off later. And back in the day, that was incredibly useful for about 10 minutes. But we have this built-in negativity bias where bad experiences stick to us like Velcro and the good ones slide off like Teflon. Back when a rustle in the bushes meant a saber-toothed tiger, that paranoia was mission critical. But today, our modern nervous system is basically running ancient code on a world it was absolutely not built for. We've got caveman hardware trying to process 21st century software. which is why your brain reacts to an email from your boss with the subject line, "Do you have a minute to talk?" and no other details, with the exact same fight or flight panic as if you were being hunted by an apex predator. And really, that's the mandatory training that we need to give bosses. Don't send that kind of email. That's rude. That's harsh.
No, that's
Yeah.
terrible. Or
Yeah.
a we need to talk meeting invite.
But there is a difference between pressure and stress. Pressure is just high expectations, and usually we create most of that ourselves. Stress, on the other hand, is just pressure that we aren't handling. The little gap between the pressure you feel and how you handle it, that is where calm lives. And your body and your brain act like a toggle switch. You can survive or you can thrive, but you only have enough energy for one. If you're constantly in survival mode, you can't grow and develop and improve at life. So if you're waiting for your to-do list to hit zero before you finally take a deep breath, you're doing it backwards. Calm isn't the reward for solving your problems. It's the prerequisite. It's the conditions that are necessary to solve your problems. Most people think that they need clarity first. They don't. They need calm, because clarity is what appears when calm removes the noise. Think about it. Have you ever made your best decision while panicking? Have you ever had your most creative idea while catastrophizing? Have you ever strengthened a relationship while being reactive? Of course not. Calm is the first requirement for everything that is good in your life. Connection, clarity, courage, confidence, compassion, curiosity, creativity, all of that starts here. Calm isn't the destination, it's the foundation. Stress creates noise, calm removes noise, and connects you to your best self and allows that to emerge.
I'm very excited to be able to relate to this experientially.
Not feeling overly attacked?
No, it's a nice change.
Okay. Well, there's still time.
Don't get too excited.
Yeah, we got more material. Don't worry. There'll be some hurt feelings in here somewhere.
Always keeping me rooted to the ground, Jake. I appreciate you.
Yeah, I'm not saying I hurt my own feelings writing this, but
I'm super excited to be welcomed to that club.
So what is calm and what isn't it? We all recognize the physical signature of a calm person. Slow, deep breaths, steady heart rate, clear thinking. You know what it looks like when you see it in other people. Sometimes, some people, not you of course, dear listener, you're much smarter than that, tend to misunderstand what calm is. First off, calm is not the same thing as being relaxed. Relaxed is what happens when you're on a beach with no stimulus, a drink in the hand, and zero responsibilities. That's easy, although I have seen people in this condition still struggle to relax. Calm, however, is when life is happening. The kids are screaming, the inbox is exploding, and you're still sitting in the driver's seat choosing your next move. Calm is not about not having feelings. It's just about having long, slow, smooth emotional transitions. You still feel everything fully. You're just skipping the erratic, chaotic spikes that make you want to bump the car in front of you just a little bit, just to get them moving. Calm is about distancing yourself or hiding in an ivory tower. It's presence without reactivity. Reactivity is not choosing your response, it just happens. If you have a glass of dirty water and you keep stirring it, it stays muddy. But if you let it sit still, the dirt settles and the water becomes clear. This is exactly what calm does for a scattered mind. It clears the water so you can see what you're doing. Calm is the first requirement for everything that is good in your life. Self-awareness, good decisions, real connections, genuine expression. None of those things show up until calm clears the way. And the best part is, your body already knows exactly how to do this. The physical signature of a calm person isn't some mystical secret. It's just slow, deep breaths, a relaxed posture, a steady heart rate, and clear thinking. Your biology already has the blueprint. You just have to let it run.
Would you say that's similar to I had a teacher that used to say it's a difference between waiting or engaging in the reaction or waiting for the response. It's like taking that time to kind of like you said, like allowing the sediment in the bottle to
Hmm.
just settle so you can think clearly and have a legitimate, reasonable adult reaction to something or a response to something
Hmm.
opposed to like an emotional knee jerk reaction.
Yeah, I'd say I'm probably like 50-50 on my reactions. That a reaction is a snap response, there's no thinking to it. There's no, I had a kid punch me in the stomach one time and I immediately knocked him down. Not a proud moment for me.
Yeah, but it was a reactive thing. Yeah, it was knee jerk.
It was knee jerk.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was like, all
for
right,
sure.
well, that wasn't cool.
Whoops.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, don't punch the professional fighter in the stomach.
Yeah, yeah.
Bad things happen.
Hmm.
But 50% of the time, those reactions are trained. This happens, I do this. And it's something that you've conditioned in your life. This happens, I do this. And then
Yeah,
there's
and
other
if
things that
then.
happen in your life where you're like, whew, probably should have taken a beat on that one, thought that through a little bit, and come up with a better response than the reactive one that came out. So having reactions aren't always all bad. I often joke that like I don't know my boundaries have been crossed until they've been crossed.
For
And then,
sure.
and then I go, oh, I had a boundary way back there
Yeah.
that
I just found it myself.
I just found it myself. So we're going to have to renegotiate this real quick.
Uh,
And I think a lot of times that happens with our reactions, that we react and we're like, wow, who was that guy that just did that? That was, whew,
yeah.
someone should have a talk with him.
Yeah. I think also inversely, part of my experience has been having a slower burn reaction and then later going, oh, that was different than it normally is. Like productive opposed to the opposite direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would say there are a lot of times where I don't have a conversation with somebody because I realize that my temperature level that I'm coming in at is not going to be useful or productive. Like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, I'm going to need a minute or a day or three to calm this down, and then we can have a conversation about this.
1,000%.
Yeah,
I 100% relate to that. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't avoid uncomfortable conversations because they're uncomfortable. I avoid them because I'm going to burn the other person's face off if we have it
Right.
right then.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. I do not want to elicit an unreasonable reaction by approaching the situation unreasonably.
yeah,
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 that makes sense. That just sounds like basic emotional intelligence and emotional maturity.
yeah. But
Yeah.
there are times where it's like,
I
oh,
want to burn this down.
my emotional reaction to this is quite a bit stronger than I had anticipated.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Those are the moments that I go, have I considered arson?
Let's go home and try journaling for 4 days about this and see if we can have a moment of clarity that doesn't involve arson.
Yeah, journal yourself away from the arson. That's good.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah, that's what we would like to do. So this brings us to, how do we build that unshakable calm that keeps us from looking for accelerants? It comes down to the 3 roots of durable calm. And root number 1 is being grounded. Think about the defining moments of your life, the make or break situations. It hinges on your ability to stay grounded while a mess is unfolding. Now, when I say grounded, I don't mean you turn into a statue. Think more like a massive oak tree or an anchor dropped from a ship. Stability doesn't mean total stillness. Trees sway in the wind and an anchored boat drifts on the current. You still feel the waves, large and small, but they don't blow you off course. You do not control the ocean. We all know a control freak. Maybe we see one in the mirror occasionally when we get ready in the morning. Control freaks are desperately trying to tame the entire ocean because they don't know how to pilot their own boat. But once you've mastered your own vessel, the weather outside matters a lot less. The ground beneath you doesn't suddenly change because the weather turned bad. The storm hits, the rain pours, and the next day, the storm is gone, but the ground is still there. Maybe a little muddy and squishy, but it's there. You remain. If you're a leader, a parent, or running a business, whatever your role, the people around you, your clients, your kids, your team, are counting on you to be the anchor. You being grounded isn't just a personal wellness hack. Your groundedness is their safety. This brings us to root number 2, being centered. People often talk about being grounded and centered as if they're the same thing. They are not. If being grounded is about your connection to the floor or the ground, being centered is about your relationship with yourself. It means knowing exactly where your middle point is between the extremes. And more importantly, knowing how to get back there when the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune try to drag you away. And life has a powerful toolkit for pulling us off center. And it usually comes down to 4 pairs of opposites: praise and blame, success and failure, comfort and discomfort, fame and shame. We get completely distorted by these. We cling desperately to the positives because we're terrified that they're temporary and are going to end, and we avoid the negatives because we're terrified they're permanent and will never end. It's a silly dichotomy, and neither are true. They're just distortions. Of course, when I point them out that directly, it does look silly, but
It does.
it's amazing how often we're living that reality with no sense of silliness. The silly goose has been completely removed from the equation.
Yeah, 100%.
It reminds me of how different animals handle a storm. Take cows and buffaloes on the American plains. When a massive storm rolls in from the west, cows do what you'd expect. They try to run away from it. But because they're cows and they aren't exactly known for their land speed records, the storm catches up to them anyway. They end up moving with the storm, maximizing their time in the freezing rain and misery. Buffaloes do something different. They wait for the storm to crest the peak, and then they turn and move directly into it. By moving towards the storm, they progress through it, minimizing the time that they spend exposed to the worst of it. When life throws discomfort or failure at you, choose to be the buffalo. You face it, you go through it, and you return to center more quicklier, which is how we would say that in Arkansas. Because centering isn't a final destination where you unpack your bags and live happily ever after, although it should be your home base. It's the center point that allows you to respond appropriately to a situation. It's like the athletic ready position. The goal isn't to always be centered, but to be able to return quickly and without fanfare. And you can't fake it. Your authenticity is your center. Your best, most genuine self is automatically centered. You can't perform your way there. You just have to stop running from the storm and come home. And that leads us to the final piece of the puzzle. Root number 3, being present, is where life happens. You can't breathe tomorrow. You can't save a breath for tomorrow. And you can't touch yesterday. You can't smell next Tuesday. Your senses only work right now. The present moment isn't spiritual, it's practical. I know being present sounds like something written on a motivational poster next to a picture of a waterfall, but hear me out. Everything you will ever think, feel, or experience is happening right now. It's not some woo-woo philosophy. We don't do that here, at least not publicly. It's neuroscience. Think about the greatest pain of your life for a second. Think about something that hurt as hard as you want right now. Can you feel that pain or that discomfort? You can't, because it's not happening now. Presence is the only place real experience is happening. It's how your body is wired. Sound, smell, touch, taste, they only work in the exact moment you are living in. And by the way, the smallest moment of time you can perceive is 1/15 of a second. So when we say a moment, that's what it is. You can't smell yesterday and you can't touch tomorrow. So the moment you focus on any one of your senses, even just for 3 seconds, you automatically get yanked back into reality, the present. And presence isn't passive. It takes real discipline to direct your focus. Because here's an uncomfortable thought. You do not control your thoughts. They arrive uninvited like a bad neighbor knocking on your door at 11 p.m. about giving other people the gift of our full attention. whether it's our clients, our partners, friends. But maybe, just maybe, it's time you start giving a little bit of that attention back to yourself. And the beautiful thing about full attention and being fully present for someone else is it creates presence. And presence is the foundation of charisma that when you give someone else your full attention, it makes you attractive. So let's connect the dots here. Because I know what you're thinking. Okay, great. Be grounded, be centered, be present. Love it. But how do I make that happen when my inbox is overloaded? Enter breathwork, specifically conscious connected breathwork, because that is what we do here. During breathwork, you're not just lying on a mat trying really, really hard to calm down. We all know telling yourself to calm down works about as well as telling a toddler to stop screaming. Instead, by connecting one breath to the next breath, we are physically, mechanically inviting your nervous system out of the frantic fight or flight sympathetic dominance and dropping it right into regulated presence. You are rewriting the ancient code that we talked about earlier, and for most people, it's an absolute game changer. For a lot of the high achieving clients I work with, a session like this is the first time in years, maybe in memory, that their body has experienced what genuine, bone deep safety feels like. And here's the beautiful, slightly mind blowing part about all that. That feeling of calm, you didn't borrow it from a pill. You didn't force it down by suppressing your feelings. It was manufactured entirely by your own lungs, your own heart, your own biology. And if your system can produce it in a session, it means your system is capable of producing it anywhere. You own the factory. And it doesn't just evaporate the second you walk out the door. The afterglow of breath work gives you a solid 3 or 4 days of expanded capacity, at least at first. It expands over time with consistent practice. You have a buffer between complications and your response. Your emotional tempo slows down. When life knocks you off balance, which it will, you find yourself bouncing back to center way quicker. This is what we mean when we talk about a durable calm. It isn't a fleeting mood. It isn't a lucky moment. It's a permanent upgrade. It's a brand new floor for how you live your life.
I really like it. The idea that I am the calm factory. I'm the breath factory. That's just a t-shirt idea.
You hitting quota?
Yes, I try. Breathworks helps.
Right. Some Six Sigma quality control assurances in here for your calm factory.
Just like that girl the other night that was like, I just wasn't like I'm not as good at breathing as I thought I was.
Right.
I'm like, oh my God. I feel like, yeah, probably everyone in this room has been there. Like, this is what breathing is.
Oh, man.
Feels great.
So what do you do now that you're calm? Because it's one thing to find your calm during breath work, but what are you going to do with it? So let's get back to that glass of dirty water that we talked about. Calm is the first step of the journey to self-awareness. None of the other steps can be taken until you're calm. When you finally still the water, you can see clearly and accurately. And from this state of stillness, your gifts, your intuition, good decisions, and your best ideas start to surface. And guess what? They don't surface because you stared harder or drank more espresso. They surface because you stopped the internal noise long enough to see what was already there. The average high performer, most people spend less than 20% of their day doing what they do best. The rest of the time is swallowed up by firefighting, overthinking, and reacting to emails. You're basically running a Ferrari in first gear through a school zone. But when you operate from a baseline of durable calm, you can unlock access to the other 80% of your capabilities. You operate with efficiency instead of anxiety. When you pair this deep calm with a clear intention, when you decide ahead of time what you want to focus on, you turn that calm into a superpower. You direct what stillness reveals. You aren't trying to escape from the noise. You are actively choosing your next move from a position of absolute strength. which leads us to a life of elegance, being effective, being simple, and being beautiful.
Kind of reminds me of something my teacher said last weekend about what we're learning, which is that you're not going into something searching for dysfunction. You are simply searching for a thread of energy and trying to follow it.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful.
Yeah, I thought so too.
You already know how to get there. At the end of the day, calm isn't some elusive mystical state reserved for monks on a mountaintop. Calm can be trained. The math here is beautifully simple. The more you train your system to be calm, the calmer you become. Now, this doesn't mean that you just do breathwork session once a week and then act like an absolute maniac the other 6 days. The 3 roots we talked about today, being grounded, being centered, being present, those are daily practices. Think of a structured breathwork session as your high intensity accelerator. It reminds your nervous system what safety feels like, and it fast tracks your access to it when things get crazy. So the next time you feel that chest tightening, anxiety creeping in over a deadline or a difficult conversation, don't hate your body for it. Stress is your body doing its job to keep you alive. Calm is you doing your job to live. We spend much of our lives trying to run from the storm like those cows on the plains, letting our ancient caveman hardware treat a blank email from the boss like an apex predator. We keep stirring our own muddy water with constant busyness, and then we wonder why we can't see the path ahead. The poet Wilfred Owen wrote a beautiful piece called The Well, and it reminds us exactly what happened when we finally stopped running. He writes, "The mud settled at last deep down, and all the water was clear as crystal and as cold as ice. I leaned across the stone and watched the water, and saw myself there. And there I stood and looked into the water, and knew that through the storms might shake the stone, they could not muddy that deep hollowed water, nor break the stillness of the face of ice." And that was The Well by Wilfred Owen. That crystal clear space is exactly what we're building here. When you connect one breath to the next, you aren't fighting the storm. You're just letting the debris settle. You're dropping an anchor into the darkness of your own life. The storms of your life, the screaming kids, the exploding inbox, the everyday demands and complications, they're always going to blow across the surface. They might even shake the stone around you. But once you realize you own the factory, once you use your breath to unlock that bone-deep safety, nothing out there can muddy that deep hollowed water. You can't hold back the storm unless you are the mountain. So stop white-knuckling the steering wheel, channel your inner buffalo, steer directly into the weather, and come home to your center. How you breathe is how you live. Take a big buffalo snort.
That was excellent.
And if you like this episode, come in and join me for a breathwork session.